The British government on the famine. The judgment of God sent the calamity to teach the Irish a lesson. That calamity must not be too much mitigated. The real evil with which we have to contend is not the physical evil of the famine, but the moral evil of the selfish, perverse and turbulent character of the people. Sir Charles Trevelyan, head of Famine Relief. Trevelyan decides the following. 22 poor law unions in the West and Southwest are to receive assistance from national funds. Able-bodied men are to receive relief only within the workhouses, in order to discourage applicants. The aged, infirm, widows and children are to be turned out of the workhouses and given aid in the form of cooked food only. This will prove impossible to implement, not least because the vast majority of poor law unions are in debt. £1 is keeping one person for 34 weeks, and Edward Twistleton, the Chief Poor Law Commissioner, recommends not making this public for fear of the government being accused of slowly murdering the peasantry by the scantiness of our relief. Trevelyan believes that natural causes must be allowed to operate.
From 1840 until 1859, Charles Edward Trevelyan was Assistant Secretary to the Treasury, the Treasury's highest ranking officer, reporting directly to the Chancellor of Exchequer. Trevelyan's importance over the Irish relief effort should not be misunderstood, especially given the different ministries that were engaged. The Board of Works and Poor Law Commissions were all directly dependent on the Treasury. After Prime Minister Robert Peel resigned in June 1846 and a Whig government was created under the leadership of the Lord John Russell, Trevelyan's grip over the administration of relief became practically obsolete. Indeed, while Peel largely regarded as the finest politician of his century, he had first-hand knowledge of the Irish and the Irish problem and did not hesitate to make great use of it. Of course, Trevelyan himself, he believed that natural causes must be allowed to operate. In 1847, he said, "The famine is a punishment from God for an idle, ungrateful, rebellious country. The Irish are suffering from an affliction of God's provision." Well, when we look at it very clearly, we understand the philosophy and the ideal that he had within his mind. It is clear to see here that it wasn't a failure to help a starving people based on a government policy, but a misfortunate misunderstanding of Scripture. For to me, it would be very interesting to understand what he made of this. When your enemy is hungry, feed him.
Edward Twistleton resigns as Chief Poor Law Commissioner and Alfred Power, a well-to-do solicitor, succeeds him. Twistleton is said to be resigning because the destitution here is so horrible, and the indifference of the House of Commons, British government, to it so manifest, that he is an unfit agent of a policy that must be one of extermination. Lord George Hill, a landlord who had attempted without success to consolidate his estates prior to 1845, says, "The Irish people have profited much by the famine. The lesson was severe, but so deep-rooted were they in old prejudices and old ways, that no teacher could have induced them to make the changes which this visitation of divine providence has brought about, both in their habits of life and in their mode of agriculture." 1846 London, Parliament. The Westminster Parliament was fiercely divided by the crisis. The radical MP Daniel O'Connell, Kerry-born, told the Commons, "The people are not to blame. It is your business to mitigate it as well as you can. Famine is coming, fever is coming, and this House should place in the hands of the government power to stay the evil."
Once again, we see the same philosophy rising there, where it's basically understood that it's God's provision to punish a peasant people who are basically a very ignorant people. However, in saying that, we understand clearly now that not only does education, void of spirituality, void of knowledge, void of scriptural instruction, corrupt a man, but it has great power in corrupting not only one nation, but two.